Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, As-salatu was-salamu ala Rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. In today's lesson, inshallah, we will learn about Hamzatul Wasl, the connecting Hamza. In the Arabic language, we cannot start our reading with a sakin letter, and the rule remains the same for the recitation of the Quran. Although there are some words that are originally starting with a sakin letter, and due to the ease of the pronunciation, an extra letter is added before the sakin letter, and that letter is called Hamzatul Wasl. This Hamzatul Wasl connects the sakin letter, and we give Hamzatul Wasl a proper, suitable vowel, and then we can recite that letter. That makes it easy for us to begin our recitation. So Hamzatul Wasl is a Hamza that is added at the beginning of the word because the word is originally starting with a sakin letter to find the ease in the pronunciation. It looks like an alif with a tiny head of letter sod on the top. But it is free of any vowel. And when we are going to begin our recitation with Hamzatul Wasl, we start with a suitable vowel, which inshallah we will learn shortly. But if Hamzatul Wasl comes in the middle of two letters or between two words, we will drop it and we will not pronounce it. So if you look into these examples, these words are starting with Hamzatul Wasl. So in this case, in order to start our recitation with Hamzatul Wasl, we need to find a suitable vowel or haraka for Hamzatul Wasl. So the first letter is Hamzatul Wasl and the second letter is either Sakin or it has a Shadda. And when the letter comes with the Shadda, the first letter is always Sakin. This lam which is having a Shadda, if you try to break this down, there are two lams here. The first one is Sakin and the second one has a fatha. If you merge them both, this is the way you can write them down. So in all these conditions, when Hamzatul Wasl is the first letter, the second letter is sakin. So in all these examples, we have to find a suitable vowel to start these words. And inshallah, we will learn them soon. If you see in these examples, Hamzatul Wasl is in between two words. If you're choosing to continue after letter meme, you will join meme with letter lam and you will recite it Rabbukumul A'la, and you will not pronounce and you don't have to worry about the vowel of Hamzatul Wasl. In this case, you will join letter ba with letter lam, but let's suppose if the teacher is going to test you, he or she can ask you to recite after ba. In that case, when you are starting with Hamzatul Wasl, you have to choose the suitable vowel. But if you are going to recite with ba, so then you will join ba with lam bil wadi and you will not recite Hamzatul Wasl. In this example as well, if you are choosing to recite anil hawa, then you do not have to choose the vowel for Hamzatul Wasl. In this case as well, wal jibala, if you have to recite it like this, joining waw with lam, you don't have to worry about the vowel of Hamzatul Wasl. But if your teacher is going to ask you, how are you going to recite after letter waw? In that situation, you have to find out the suitable vowel for Hamzatul Wasl. But in all these cases, when you begin your recitation with Hamzatul Wasl, you will put a suitable vowel here. And in this case, you will say Alladina, Alhamdu, Al-Masjid. In these examples, Hamzatul Wasl will have fatha, but there are situations when Hamzatul Wasl has a kasra, dhamma, and inshallah we will discuss them soon. And in these examples, because we don't have to start our recitation with Hamzatul Wasl, so we will drop it, we will not pronounce it, and we will not worry about the vowel of the Hamzatul Wasl. One thing we should remember, not to confuse Hamzatul Qat'a with Hamzatul Wasl. Hamzatul Qat'a, if you look at my pointer, we write Hamzatul Qat'a like this. But Hamzatul Wasl is written like this. It is an alif with the tiny head of letter Sod on the top. This is how we write Hamzatul Wasl, and Hamzatul Qat'a is like this. Hamzatul Qat'a can be at the beginning or at the end or in the middle of the word. It can be written on the top or at the bottom of letter Ya, letter Waw, and letter Alif. And it can come as a sakin letter or it has its own vowel. You will recite it the way it is in the Quran. You don't have to choose the vowel of Hamzatul Qat'a. If you see in these examples, so in this case, if you see Hamzatul Qat'a is on top of Alif. So in this situation, this is Hamzatul Qat'a, this is not Alif. And this Hamza, it is coming on its own with a kasra. So in this case, we will not worry about the vowel of these letters. And both of these are Hamzatul Qat'a. Either one more thing that we need to remember, a true alif cannot be at the beginning of a word because true alif can only come as a sakin and it has a fatha before it. It can only come in a mad condition. If you see in these examples, so this one, the first one, this alif having a tiny sod on the top, this is not alif, this is Hamzatul Wasl. But if you see in this example, this alif, which has Hamzatul Qat'a on the top, this is Hamzatul Qat'a. So this one, where my pointer is, this one is Hamzatul Wasl, this one is Hamzatul Qat'a. But this alif, which does not have anything on the top, this is a sakin alif that has a fatha before it. This is a true alif. And this alif is in a mad condition when you have to stretch it, when you have to lengthen the letter. So you have to remember these points. But alif, if it has a tiny sod head on the top, is Hamzatul Wasl. If alif has a Hamzatul Qat'a on the top, that is Hamza, and you will recite it like Hamza. If alif comes in a mad condition, that is a true alif. And you just have to find suitable vowel for Hamzatul Wasl only, and you don't have to worry about the vowel of Hamzatul Qat'a. In this example, if you see amra, so this one is Hamzatul Qat'a and this one is alif. So you will say amra and you don't have to worry about the vowel of this alif because this is in a mad condition. In this example, if you see, Hamzatul Qat'a is on the top of letter Waw, but this is not letter Waw and this is Hamzatul Qat'a. So you will say you and now right after Hamzatul Qat'a, a true alif which is in a mad condition is coming. So you will say you akhidu. You will lengthen the letter a little bit because of the mad letter alif. In this situation, this is Hamzatul Wasl. And now on the top of Ya, because Hamzatul Qata'a is coming with Dhamma, you will recite it Hamzatul Qata'a and this is not letter Ya. You will choose a suitable vowel for Hamzatul Wasl, but you will recite this Hamzatul Qat'a with the vowel, or if you are choosing to stop, you will make it sakin. And other thing that we need to notice that Hamzatul Wasl can only be found in Osmani script. But the script that we use in India, Pakistan, or we can call it Majidi script or South Asian script, in that script, there is a different way to find Hamzatul Wasl from Hamzatul Qata and Alif. But at times, the Hamzatul Qata and Hamzatul Wasl are written with the same way. Another point to remember here is Hamzatul Wasl in this particular form where there is alif and on the top there is a tiny head of sod can only be found in Osmani script. But the Majidi script or the script that we follow in India, Pakistan or in South Asian countries, the sign of Hamzatul Wasl is an alif without any vowel. But in some cases when an ayah begins with Hamzatul Wasl, you will find a vowel on it. And sometimes when Hamzatul Qata'a is at the beginning of a word in Majidi script, you will also find the vowel over it or under it. So that's why at times it becomes difficult for us to find the difference between Hamzatul Qata'a or Hamzatul Wasl in Majidi script or in Indo-Pak script. But in Uthmani script, you will find Hamzatul Wasl with this sign. Hamzatul Qata'a is either coming on its own or written on these letters, letter Ya, letter Waw, and letter Alif. And a true letter Alif can only come in a mad condition. So if you see in these examples, so in Uthmani script, you will find ulaika written like this. The first letter is Hamza, although Hamza is on top of Alif, but we call it Hamza and this is not an Alif. But ulaika starting with Alif and it has a dhamma or pesh on it. Inna in Uthmani script is written like this and it starts with letter Hamza. While in Majidi script, you see letter Alif that has a kasra under it, and this is how you see letter Inna in Majidi script. Unzila in Uthmani script is starting with Hamza, while in Indo-Pak script, you see Unzila starting with an alif that has a dhamma on it. As-salati alladhina in Uthmani script, both of them starts with Hamzatul Wasl, but in Majidi script, both of them are written like this without any vowel on these letters. When starting a word with Hamzatul Wasl, Hamzatul Wasl does not have any vowel on it. No haraka on Hamzatul Wasl. So you have to decide the vowel by following three simple ways. There are some exceptions and inshallah we will discuss them soon. When we are going to start our word with Hamzatul Wasl will either have fatha or dhamma or kasra. There is no fourth option. So the first option is Hamzatul Wasl will always have fatha if the second letter is lam. In this example, if you see Hamzatul Wasl is the first letter, because the second letter is lam, we will put fatha on Hamzatul Wasl. So we will say al-mu'minun. In this situation, you are going to recite it like this. As-sama'i. Although we are not reciting al-sama'i, but lam is written over there. Letter lam is still the second letter here. Although we are joining Hamzatul Wasl with Seen, but the second letter is still Lam. So if the second letter is Lam, we will say As-Sama'i. We will put Fatha on Hamzatul Wasl and we will recite it like this. As-Sama'i. In this case, first letter is Hamzatul Wasl, second letter is Lam. When second letter is Lam, you will always put Fatha on Hamzatul Wasl. So in all these examples, Hamzatul Wasl will always have Fatha. So what happens if the second letter is not Lam? In that situation, you move on to the third letter and we apply these two rules. So rule number 2 says you will always put Dhamma on Hamzatul Wasl if the second letter is not Lam and the third letter has a Dhamma. So once you move on to the third letter, you only look at the vowel of the third letter. You are not concerned about the letter, but the vowel of the letter. So in this situation, if you see Hamzatul Wasl, is the first letter, Noon is the second letter, but Dha has a Dhamma. Because the third letter has a Dhamma, Hamzatul Wasl will have Dhamma. In this case, Hamzatul Wasl is the first letter. Because second letter is not Lam, we will move on to the third letter. Because third letter has a Dhamma, we will always put Dhamma on Hamzatul Wasl. In this case, second letter is not Lam, you move on to the third letter. Third letter has a dhamma, you will always put dhamma on Hamzatul Wasl. And there are some exceptions and inshallah we will discuss them soon. But general rule is the same. If the third letter has dhamma, you will put dhamma on Hamzatul Wasl. In third case, if the second letter is not lam and you move on to the third letter, that does not have a dhamma. When the third letter does not have dhamma, it will either have a fatha or a kasra. In both situations, if the third letter has a kasra or fatha, you will always put a kasra on Hamzatul Wasl. So if you see in these examples, first letter is Hamzatul Wasl, second letter is not Lam, so you move on to the third letter. Because third letter does not have Dhamma, so you will put Kasra on Hamzatul Wasl. In this case, Hamzatul Wasl is the first letter. Because second letter is not Lam, you will move on to the third letter. Third letter Ra has a Kasra, so you will always put Kasra on Hamzatul Wasl. In this case as well, if you see Hamzatul Wasl is the first letter, second letter is Sheen, it's not Lam, you move on to the third letter. Third letter Ta has a Fatha. So you will always put kasra with Hamzatul Wasl. And there are some exceptions to this as well. And inshallah, we will discuss them soon. If you want to summarize this whole in one statement, you will say, if the second letter after Hamzatul Wasl is lam, you will always put fatha on Hamzatul Wasl. So that being said, now two options are left, dhamma and kasra, because fatha is only when the second letter is lam. And when you have to put dhamma or kasra on Hamzatul Wasl, follow this statement. Dhamma with dhamma, otherwise kasra. Fatha only comes if the second letter is lam. If second letter is not lam, you will see the third letter. Once you reach at the third letter, so you will put dhamma on Hamzatul Wasl if third letter has dhamma. So dhamma with dhamma, otherwise if the third letter has kasra or fatha, you will always put kasra on Hamzatul Wasl. So dhamma with dhamma, otherwise kasra. And that's the end of our lesson. Inshallah, we will continue with the same topic in our next class. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.